Deadpool Negative, finally back with my review of the next episode of Now and Again. I apologize for taking so long with this. What happened was I started looking at my videos and I'm going on too many tangents. I'm referencing stuff just for the sake of referencing it. And also, like, getting through some of this stuff 25 years later is harder than I thought it would be. My memories do not line up with the way my brain works now. So I'm good, but I'm working on it. Um, I am gonna get these. I'm gonna try and get at least a good chunk of this series done before the year is out. But here I am back with this review of the second episode of Now and Again on the Town, written by Glenn Gordon Caron. And I was incorrect. I thought Caron directed the first three episodes. No, the second episode is actually directed by Christopher Misiano. And this was also, I believe, the first episode that was co-produced by Ronald L. Schwari, who has collaborated with Karen ever since on most notably on Medium and Bull, and because one of the requirements for that Les Moon has put on Glenn Caron was he's got to produce 22 episodes, which he'd never done before. The most episodes of Moonlight ever produced this season was 18. So he, I guess Mr. Schwari found a way. And if you look at the DVD extras, it still took a long time to make these episodes because Mr. Caron's a perfectionist and he was rewriting stuff. But anyway, Medium was a long running, well liked series that the Star is still kind of agitating to go back to. Last time I checked. Um, but let's talk about Now and Again right now. And the second episode, back in when I was in college and I saw this episode, yeah, this is pretty good. Now, there are some good stuff, but there is a bad, like, episode breaking plot hole in the middle of it. Now, before I even start, like, I'm not the person I was then that I am now, but there are things I can tolerate. Like I recently watched Doug Liman's The Instigators, which you could argue is really implausible, but it's done in a way that I don't have time to think about it until the episode's over. Until the movie's over. I mean, there is one wildly unbelievable plot point in that movie, but again, no tangents. But I'm going to spoil the end of the episode, oh, because I want to discuss the big elephant in the room that really hurts the episode, even though there's some great moments in it that you don't really normally see on other shows in 1999 or 2024. At the end of the episode, um, the doc reveals that Dr. Morris reveals that I have a low jack inside your head, a tracking device inside Michael Wiseman's head. And he says, like, and, that they implanted that. Here's my problem with that. Now, in the opening of the episode, after doing a little training demonstration for what we are told, and it's meant. I think it's meant to be vague. I always thought like Morris's true nature and whether he was working with the government was meant to be questioned, or maybe I'm just thinking I'm out thinking the writers. Um, for some politicians and senators. That's the other thing. Like how much do they know about Michael other than he has superpowers? He's super strong and super. Do they know the process? Like that's never answered either, which I thought was interesting. Or again, I may just be thinking about it too much. But here's the thing: Michael escapes from his captors, in a pretty clever, and he does it in a pretty clever way. Like one of the things about the Michael Wiseman and excuse me, Michael Newman, I should say, Michael Wiseman is that he always thought of things ahead. Now, a lot of times in the show, Michael Newman does not, but here it was nice to see him he'd obviously been thinking about this for a few days, a way to figure out, take out to take out the bad guys to escape. And he's running, and it's a really kind of terrible effect shot. I mean, it was fine for 1999, but if you watch him running away, and he's supposed to be running faster than the guys going after him, which makes me wonder why they're bothering to try and run after him, because they know they can't catch him because they know what he is. Um, he it looks exactly like the Catch That Man meme from YTMND. I mean, I don't think it was the inspiration for it, but you could definitely put the Catch That Man music over it. It would work perfectly. Okay, so we know they have a tracking device. I mean, it's the revelation is held up to the end of the episode because if you think about it, the episode doesn't even work if you have a tracking device. There is a line saying that there's a signal problem, but it's not really. We got a stronger signal, and I'm like, wait, why isn't it working properly? Like, so there's a tracking device inside him. So and this is where Michael Newman gets stupid, or Michael Wiseman, where, like, again, we just saw him cleverly figure out a way to escape, and yet when he goes to see Roger in his office, and he goes immediately to see Roger, he doesn't have a fake name. He doesn't have any clothes. And so obviously they don't let him in. And I'm thinking, like, wait, why didn't he, like, obviously he doesn't have any money, but you'd think he'd, like, figure out a way to, you know, pick a pocket. But so what he does instead is he waits all night. He waits till it's dark. And in a scene that's pretty funny, he climbs up the building and breaks into Roger's office through his window because he knows Roger's there. Because he knows Roger's habits. But I kept thinking, like, he had to wait there for several hours. Now, you could argue the point that maybe he walked around for a bit, but he's still wearing barely anything. He's not even wearing shoes. And you're going to tell me that, and so it stands to reason he was standing there, out walking around the building, hiding in that area for the whole time, and the tracking device didn't ping him? That's bad. That's really bad. That's like, breaks the entire episode bad. And it's frustrating because there are a lot, again, it's I was really disappointed with it on this viewing. I was like, wait, like that, I mean, genuinely does not make sense. Like, nobody I mean, I don't think anybody tells Gordon Caron what to do in any circumstance. But nobody said, wait a minute, he's there all the time. He's been there for hours. Wouldn't they have caught him? And, like, like, and I can't help but noticing plot holes. Like, I recently watched Shrinking and Severance, two of the most acclaimed shows on TV. And Shrinking, that just kind of broke me 3 episodes. Like, no doctor would behave like this, no matter how upset, upset by grief they are. No doctor who is not dealing with a tremendous loss would do what Jessica Williams' character does in one episode. No doctor would do that. They would get in trouble. And the depressing thing about Shrinking is it has probably Harrison Ford's best, with no tangents. But Severance is even more well received, and I really enjoyed watching. I binged Severance, 9 episodes this past week, and I really enjoyed it. But I've got to ask you people, why didn't Milchick pick up the book in episode 4? Why didn't he go back for it? He had plenty of time to go back for it. He knew he's been meticulous with everything, but he just forgot that book. He forgot the book because the show needed him to forget the book. Anyway, but let's fast forward. So Roger, of course, is terrified by Michael Newman, and Newman sort of bullies him, forces him, claiming that he's a friend of Michael Wiseman, into driving him to Lisa's house, Lisa's wife. And he gets Roger to do that, and this is one of the weird things. Like, okay, the show's rules seem to think it's okay for people for Roger to believe that Michael Newman is Michael Wiseman, but it's not okay because they'll kill me if I tell you how. Well, the fact that you know who he is for real, I mean, it leads to some pretty good comedy. As like Garrett, I mean, it's on paper it's hacky, but Garrett Graham makes it work. Where Garrett Graham thinks Michael Newman is basically an angel and a reincarnated angel, and Michael Newman kind of just lets him roll with it, and like he starts trying not to curse, and it's pretty funny. And again, this was the last major thing Garrett Graham worked on, and it's a kind of a shame that no one remembers it because I think he did a very good job threading the needle between a goofy, hacky comedy character and someone with a little more depth than that, despite some of the things they have him do later in the series. But when he gets to Lisa's house, Lisa's going out with Gerald Meisenbach, played by Chip from the previous episode. Chip Zien, best known for Almost Perfect, the sitcom Almost Perfect, the movie The Siege, and the voice of Howard the Duck in the Howard the Duck movie. I talked last time about how much I enjoyed Zien's performance here and how much well-rounded and interesting Meisenbach was a character compared to Lisa, the second lead. Um, and that continues. But there's this really fascinating, and it's probably like there are two wonderful scenes in the episode. This is one of them. Meisenbach takes Lisa on a date, talks, really butters her up. They go back to his office. Now he doesn't want to do anything. He doesn't want to have sex with her. He just says, "I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to win, but I also really like you." And he hands her, and he says and he admits that he's married. And then he hands her an envelope full of $1,000 because he knows Lisa's, in trouble financially because we are about 7 months out. I think the timeline is Michael Wiseman died in October, and around this, and we're at April, and so he has to he's then he admits he's married, and he admits the marriage is dead, but that's not that doesn't make Lisa feel any better. Giving her the envelope full of cash makes her feel like a kept woman. Like she basically says, like, am I a whore? Like it's not in terms, but like I think Margaret Colin plays it very well. That actually pretty great the way that Margaret Colin always does, in that she's able to show a strong moral code and backbone. And she says to Gerald, I'm not comfortable with it. Basically, I'm not comfortable with this. You're fired. And she knows this man can get her what she deserves out of that awful company, but she's also not willing to sacrifice or just basically let this guy into her life in this really strange and uncomfortable way. And what's way interesting about the way Meisenbach is written and the way Zien plays him, he's not a creep. I mean, he's doing something extremely creepy, but he's also a guy who just overplayed his hand. And he's not a monster, but he's basically built up in his mind that he is what Lisa Wiseman needs. A lot of guys do that. I've done that. But it doesn't matter if you're what she needs if she doesn't want you. If if you I mean there was a girl that I thought I was great for. She didn't want me. You know, that's life. That's what happens. Um and so that scene really works really well. Second scene that I thought, I'm going to fast forward a bit, because there's a lot of plot machinations and there's stuff about the Eggman. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. The second scene is Michael Newman, because he's been following Lisa, follows her out of Meisenbach's, sees her exiting Meisenbach's office, and they have this back and forth. And it's funny because they start shouting at each other from across the street. Actually, they're talking at the normal, but like even in a New York street at like late at night, you'd still have to shout across the New York street. Um, and it's a wonderful back and forth. Like, you know, Glenn Gordon Caron talks about how he could only find three actors who could do the scripts for Moonlighting, do it, who understood what he was trying to do. And one of them, of course, was Bruce Willis. And he had to beg Cheryl Shepard to read with Bruce on camera to sell it to the network. And again, history was made, and I'm sure Mark Colin and Garrett Close are much easier to deal with than Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis. And I can imagine I'm imagining what his reaction must have been over 25 years ago when he first saw them do the read, because they're back and forth, this boom, 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 boom. I think Close really gets like how relieved and happy he is to see his wife, even after less than a year apart. And Colin is humoring this weird guy who's a couple decades younger than. I'm not really sure. I think I think Close was pushing 30 when he took the role, but I think physically the character is meant to be 24. But they have this great back and forth and wonderful chemistry, and he wears her down. She buys him clothes, and he wears an Atari shirt, which I thought was hilarious. And this is what the show gets. It's like this romantic chemistry, and this is one of the things the show gets really right, really, really well done. And then we get to the ending, which is just more like, again, the LoJack, and that kind of just blows apart what I just watched. It's like, well, why didn't they grab him when he was wandering out? And that's another thing. Again, like, it's very vague as to how many resources Morris has. Like, he's clearly an ex-Black Op. Well, the fourth episode reveals he's not just a scientist. He's actually ex-Black Ops. But he has apparently 5 guys, and like he doesn't send anyone to actually cover Roger's office or Lisa's house when Michael Newman escapes. And I just can't get past that. Like, I need more information on how that works. Um, the episode's a disappointment, but it has 2 scenes that I think really, really work well, and I think Chip Zien was. Thankfully, this is the last time we see Meisenbach. He does return in later episodes, and I think Zien does a phenomenal job. Unfortunately, well, I'll get to that when we come to it. But I also want to talk about the Eggman. Now the Eggman. This is okay. I'll give another plot problem. Like, so the Eggman staged the attacks on in the first episode, and the first episode is taking place in October of October, and then eventually getting to April. So he dropped the first egg in Tokyo in October. Then he dropped the second egg in this sometime before the events of he dropped the second egg in the Paris airport, and then he didn't do anything for months. And now he's in New York, and now he's writing ransom letters. Now he targets he devastated 2 populated. I mean, it's a Tokyo subway and a Paris airport, and then kind of just went silent. Also, this would be news. This would be real effing news. People would probably still be talking about it because it's so horrific. That's a minor quibble. But there's a great scene at the end of the episode I thought was just fantastic, where again, like, it's kind of funny how this show features some of the best X-Files moments that were never on the X-Files. I do think Caron had X-Files in the back of his head as much as he had Damn Yankees and as much as he had something else. But we'll talk about that something else when I feel like it. Um, but there's a scene where he's testing injecting the eggs with his nerve agent, and a woman walks in and startles him. And he drops the egg. He's wearing his gas mask, and they cut to a point of view shot of him wearing the gas mask, and it's just him breathing silently, and you see all the because the nerve agent in the eggs is fast moving. You see all these bodies piling, like, already, blood coming out of the eyes, and it is terrifically creepy. Um, the Eggman, I can't. Well, I remember watching these episodes. I kept wondering, okay, who's the Eggman working for? Who is the Eggman? Is he someone important? Is there a conspiracy afoot? Well, in the next episode, you find out really what he's up to, and what his motivations are. In the episode, in this episode he sends $100 million ransom note. Um, but again, watching this series, I can't get past the plot holes that are pretty much episode breaking. Yet there's a lot to love here, and I would recommend you at least watch the two scenes with Lisa and Meisenbach and Lisa and Michael Newman. The first time they meet, it is Close and Colin are just they work. They work. I'm kind of actually disappointed that in 25 years, no one's ever thought to cast them in a project together. Because, like I said, they're both still working. Colin reprised her role in the Gossip Girl reboot, and Close is concentrating mostly on Christian themed productions, but he's still doing stuff. So anyway, that's my review of episode 2, and I will talk to you later. Bye.